This morning, we're waking up in Nashville, Tennessee. We had a blast last night downtown on the Broadway Strip. The weather was absolutely perfect. It was about 60 degrees. I mean, the weather was great. There was a ton of people out, lots of good music. The food was great. It was definitely a good time, and I definitely recommend coming to Nashville if you get the opportunity. Today, though, before we hit the road, headed to Gatlinburg, we're gonna walk back downtown, past where we were last night, and we're gonna visit the location, and I'm gonna tell the story of what happened last year on Christmas morning. I'm talking about the 2020 Christmas Day bombing that was meant to take out AT&T. It's a crazy story, and we're gonna get to see the actual wreckage of that bombing as it still sits to this day. First thing today, to get to where we need to be, we've got to walk back the same direction we walked last night. We're walking past all of that, and we're going to keep heading on down towards the courthouse on 2nd Avenue, kind of close to the river. It was Christmas Day, December 25th of 2020, just after midnight, at about 1:22 a.m., when a Thor motor coach RV drove right down the road here, and it parked up the street there on the left side of the road, just at the curb. The RV stayed there, not drawing any attention, for several hours. And then all of a sudden, just after 5 a.m. that morning, everyone in the area was awoken by gunfire that went off in multiple bursts. Immediately after the gunfire stopped, a computerized woman's voice started blaring from loudspeakers that were installed on the RV. That computerized voice played messages over and over that said, "Evacuate now."
This area must be evacuated now. All buildings. This area must be evacuated now. All buildings. This area must be evacuated now. Hear this message. Evacuate now. If you can hear this message, evacuate now.
The broadcast then said, "There's a bomb in this vehicle. You must evacuate now." And then a 15-minute countdown began. And when that countdown started playing, the song "Downtown" by Petula Clark started playing in the background behind it. Two police officers who were responding to the shots fired call, they arrived on scene just in time to hear the broadcast say, "There's a bomb in this vehicle. You must evacuate now."
That's so weird. That's like something out of a movie.
Like The Purge?
Yeah.
Evacuate now.
Keep watching the news.
Evacuate now. Stay clear, vehicle. Stay clear, vehicle. Do not approach this vehicle. Don't monitor the sensors. Keep building now.
All bomb threats are, for the most part, taken seriously by law enforcement. So those two officers immediately called for backup, and they started going door to door, trying to evacuate everyone from the area. Very quickly, more officers arrived on scene, and they were able to block off roads and divert all traffic from the area, and they called in the bomb squad. At about 6:15 a.m. that morning, the countdown stopped, and the broadcast started repeating its "evacuate now" messages several times. At exactly 6:30 a.m., the bomb detonated, destroying this entire block of downtown Nashville, Tennessee.
Now, if you can hear this message, evacuate now. If you can hear this message, evacuate now. Evacuate now. Now. Now.
8 people were injured in the explosion. 2 of them were those 2 officers that were the first ones on scene that were going door to door evacuating people from the area. They were actually caught on camera when the bomb exploded. Only one person died in the blast, and that was the bomber himself. It was a suicide bombing on American soil that was targeting the AT&T building. During the FBI and ATF's investigation, they recovered the mangled remains of the suicide bomber, and he was quickly identified as 63-year-old Anthony Quinn Werner. They learned that Werner was a conspiracy theorist who believed that we never landed on the moon and that the earth was flat. He told people that he believed our government had been taken over by a reptilian race of aliens who dressed up as humans, I guess. Werner was also very vocal that he believed that the September 11th attacks in New York were really an alien attack that was covered up by the news media. They also learned that Werner spent a lot of time going to the state parks in the area around Nashville searching for aliens. Both Anthony Werner and his father, they both worked for AT&T at one point in time, which is the building right beside where he parked the RV. It's believed that when Anthony's father passed away several years ago, prior to the bombing, his dad passed away from dementia. Supposedly, Anthony believed that AT&T's communications equipment gave his dad the dementia that ultimately killed him. Later on, Anthony Werner would leave AT&T because he was paranoid about their 5G technology. He thought that it was harmful, and he held animosity towards the communications company because of their 5G technology. Investigators said that Anthony Werner believed he knew their systems well enough that he thought by destroying this one AT&T building here in Nashville, that would completely destroy their infrastructure worldwide. It would cripple the company and it would put them out of business. Now, even though Anthony Werner was being fueled by mental delusions and paranoia, he only wanted to hurt AT&T, not any actual people, which is why he chose to do it early in the morning on Christmas Day. He thought that that was an optimal time where very few people would be in the downtown area. Workers would be at home for Christmas, and tourists wouldn't be down there because there was nothing open for Christmas. And for the ones that were around, that's why he started the warning message. He gave them a 30-minute warning between the time that he let off the gunfire and the time of the blast. Werner obviously thought long and hard about the best time to set this bomb off. And it's kind of hard to believe, actually. I mean, this is the very first time that I've ever heard of a terrorist who had a conscience and didn't want to hurt anyone. Even though Anthony Warner succeeded in destroying buildings in downtown Nashville, and he messed up the AT&T building pretty bad, his ultimate plan failed because AT&T customers, yes, they did lose service. ATM machines and credit card machines did go down, but it only affected areas mostly in the Middle Tennessee area here, and it only lasted a few days. It wasn't the worldwide chaos that he envisioned. After the bomb went off, the FBI and the ATF launched a massive investigation, even though they, from pretty early on knew who their suspect was and all of that. They still launched a massive investigation to try to figure out why. They raided Anthony Warner's house and they talked to his neighbors. One neighbor told investigators that he had just talked to Anthony several days prior to the bombing, and he had asked him if he was getting anything for Christmas, and that neighbor said that Anthony just smiled and laughed and responded that his gift was going to be that no one would ever forget his name. Investigators learned that in the last year leading up to the bombing, Anthony Warner gave away a lot of his possessions. Like, he gave an elderly woman his car, and they found out that he gave one woman 2 different homes in the Nashville area. To this day, they don't know what the connection was between Anthony Warner and this woman, but she lived in California, and she claimed that she didn't know that he had quick deeded those properties to her until the investigators told her. Google Earth images of Warner's most recent home, they actually show the RV that was used in the bombing, like sitting right out beside his house inside of a fenced-in backyard area. After raiding his homes and learning about him giving away his possessions, the FBI and ATF learned that a little more than a year before the bombing, Anthony Warner's then girlfriend called the Nashville Police Department and reported that Anthony was making bombs in his RV and that she was scared of him. Police went to Anthony Warner's home. They actually saw the RV sitting out in the yard, but when they knocked on the door, no one answered. So they just left, and they never followed back up with it. They never bothered to go back. At the same time, his then girlfriend, whose name is Pamela Perry, she suffered from some mental health issues. So it kind of appears that they just didn't believe her. They wound up taking her to the hospital for an evaluation after that.
They didn't take me seriously. I feel like I was taken or looked at as a crazy person.
It turns out, obviously, she wasn't crazy. And Pamela Perry is currently, right now, she's suing Nashville and Camping World CEO Marcus Lemonis because they both offered rewards for information about the bombing. And on top of her report a year prior, she also called the FBI tip line the day of the bombing when she saw a picture of that RV. To this day, she hasn't received anything from anyone, not even a thank you. As the sun came up on downtown Nashville that Christmas morning, the city looked a lot different than it had looked just hours prior. Google Earth, just like in his home, it still shows the street view images from before the bombing, where all the buildings are still intact. It's almost like a time capsule. Looking at the Google Earth image of the AT&T building, Anthony Warner pulled his RV up right to the edge of that overhang where it says AT&T, just to the left side of it, right near where that white truck is sitting in this picture. It's been just over a year now since the senseless bombing took place. You can still see the destruction and devastation from that day. It seems like AT&T was pretty quick to rebuild their building, whereas these former luxury apartments across the street look like the bombing just happened yesterday. And you see, these were apartments. They've all boarded up and been evacuated. And, it was a big mess. Wow. This stupid fence won't let the camera focus. He pulled his RV, he pulled the RV up right here. Absolutely crazy.
Well, it'd be crazy if you could find footage of somebody who lived there who was evacuated.
Oh yeah, I haven't looked for any yet, but I'm gonna look for whatever I can find. I know these stupid fences are kind of restricting. Go into wide angle mode to see if that helps. Took it all the way up to the top. Hey, just look at the amount of destruction in this one right here. Apparently they're working their way down and hadn't got this cleaned out yet, but the amount of destruction inside of this one building area here is nuts. Look at all the office chairs there in that crater in the ground. Like all the office supplies and stuff. Air conditioning unit hanging. That's just wild. You got the top of this building here. There's a giant hole in the top of it. This was the building he was targeting, but you see, this building probably looked like this, but AT&T's got the money to fix, so you can see all this is like wet cement. AT&T just has the money to fix everything, where the city's having to probably come up with the money to fix there. So, in the days following this bombing, everyone was on high alert, and several people were stopped in different places for having like RVs parked in a downtown area, and the RVs were running. Law enforcement cited caution over the Nashville bombing as the reason for stopping some of these people. And then just 3 days after the bombing, on the 28th of December, some idiot not far from Nashville, his name was James Turgeon, he thought that it would be a great idea to strap some loudspeakers on the outside of his box truck. And then he drove around the Lebanon, Tennessee area, stopping at several businesses, and he blared an audio track that was pretty similar to the one Anthony Warner used that morning. Law enforcement quickly caught up to James Turgeon driving that box truck down this 2-lane road. He was arrested, and the bomb squad was called in. This time there was no bomb, but they weren't going to take any chances. I just have to wonder, though, what propels people, well, for one, to do the bombing like Anthony Warner did, but then for someone to just a few days later traumatize everyone all over again for nothing, and to mimic this horrible, tragic event that had taken place just days earlier without actually trying to follow through with it. It's crazy. It was stupid, very stupid, and that copycat is now charged with a couple of felonies because of it. He's still sitting in jail to this day. Now we're gonna make the trek back to our hotel. We've got to load up our bags and get Bella. She's here with us on this trip, but we just left her in the room. And then we're gonna hit the road, and we're headed to Gatlinburg. In fact, the next video I'll probably start just as we finish loading up the car and get on the road. Either way, that's going to do it for this video today on the 2020 Christmas Day bombing here in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I really, really, really appreciate it. I just can't thank you all enough for watching my videos. If you're new here, go down, hit that subscribe button. then hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. If you're interested in helping support the channel, you can check out the links down in the description box below. Thank you all. I will see you again tomorrow, this time from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Please, all of you, stay safe and stay healthy. Much love to you all.